Welcome everyone to Watts Alive. It's my great pleasure to have with me today the star of stage, screen, and so many other things, the inimitable Fred and very talented Fred Sullivan, who's going to do a reading for us of The Night Before Christmas. So welcome to the show, Fred.
Oh, thanks for having me. I thought this would be an appropriate character to read A Visit from St. Nicholas.
Well, isn't it though? Perfect. What a gorgeous outfit that is. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your career. Many years,
Uh,
of course, spent at Trinity in Providence and the GAM Theater also in Rhode Island School of Design, RISD.
Absolutely. They've all been my homes. And Trinity, I went as a student, and Adrian Hall invited me to stay. And oh, what a ride was that for 35 years. I loved it. And I stopped working there about a year and a half ago. 35 years seemed to be a good time to work other places. So I'm now working at the Commonwealth Shakespeare Company a lot, and GAM, of course. We're about to do It's a Wonderful Life on the radio, and I'm going to play the same parts I played last year on stage, Clarence and Mr. Potter. And I'm also teaching it. I've been there for 15 years, Rhode Island School of Design, and I absolutely love it. And I've been working up in Boston a little more, and that's really nice. I grew up there.
Yes, well, in many ways, you're a local guy. Started out on the Cape, I think, didn't you? And I saw something about Harwich the other day.
I
Gold
did.
Coast
When
on
I was
Facebook.
7 years old, I walked into the Harwich Junior Theater, and I walked out when I was 29.
Wow,
I took a
that
lot
was
of
a walk.
that was a long visit. It was every summer, and then I started working in the off season there in between stuff that Adrian had for me. And I really learned so much. I mean, it's a magical place. And the Harwich Junior Theater, it is now the Cape Cod Theater Company, home of the Harwich Junior Theater, because they run year round. And very impressive, beautiful place, beautiful facility, and a great place to include young people who want to learn more about the arts.
And that carries over nicely, of course, that background into RISD and your work there, still with students, still with learning, education, and all of those wonderful passions that we need in our lives.
hmm No, I think I learned how to be passionate about theater in Harwich, and that carried on through high school. And then I got an award for it. So my father said, "All right, you can study
You
it
can
in
do it.
college."
Yeah.
They weren't sure. They wanted me to have something to fall back on. But luckily, I've been working steadily for close to 40 years.
All those years, right. So tell us a little bit about The Night Before Christmas. It was,
Well, it's called A Visit from St. Nicholas. We know it as The Night Before Christmas because that's the first line of it. It was written by Clement Clark Moore. It was published by Golden Books in 1949, but Mr. Moore wrote it in 1823. It's an old poem, and he is credited pretty much with he and the Coca-Cola Company are credited with inventing the American Santa Claus as we know him.
and so why don't we do the poem then? Why don't we read it?
I look forward to it.
Okay, we're ready.
I just put down my Santa glasses, and I need them because they're magic.
They are
Well,
just
yeah,
like mine. I have
can
Mr. Santa. I have Mrs. Santa glasses.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mamma in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled down for a long winter's nap, when out on the lawn there arose such a clatter. I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave a luster of midday to objects below. when what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. With a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be Saint Nick. More rapid than eagles, his reindeer they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donder and Blitzen, to the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, dash away, dash away all! As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky, so up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with a sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkle I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes, they were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled. His dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard on his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of his pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed, like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying a finger aside of his nose and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team, gave a whistle, and away they all flew, like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, as he drove out of sight, "Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night."
Wonderful. That never loses its charm and enthusiasm and warmth, and what a perfect way to set the tone for the season.
Oh, and we need it this year.
Well,
We
don't we
need
know? Well, we
stick
do.
by our hearts and love each other, yeah?
Well, that's exactly right. And hopefully when we come out of all this, there will be an even greater appreciation for the arts and the important role that they serve in our
It's,
lives. Sometimes
it's
they're
true.
underappreciated, unfortunately, but
In my neck of the woods, theater teaches empathy, and it's a good teacher, and it's one that we need more and more of, especially lately.
that's exactly right. So we thank you so much, Fred, for joining us today, and we wish you a very, very Merry Christmas and wonderful holiday season.
My privilege, and to you and to everyone watching. Merry
Thank you.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everyone. It's my great pleasure to have with me now Matt Richard, a local musician, actually more than local and beyond. So welcome to the program, Matt.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're going to play some Christmas music today, as we were saying before we went on the air. Actually, that's kind of the backbone of this season, the wonderful, wonderful Christmas music that we have to share at this time of the year. So tell us a little bit about what you're going to play, what you're going to start with today, Matt.
Well, one of the tunes that I recorded for you is known as the Polish Carol. It's called "Infant Holy, Infant Lowly." It's a little more of a traditional song, and I have Polish ancestry. I'm a quarter Polish on my dad's side, and a lot of the music I record and post in places, Facebook and other places, is done. I have an aunt and uncle, a great aunt and uncle up in the Springfield area, and they still tune in. They're very much into the Polish tradition. They visited Poland, and I know they love the music. They're in their 90s now, but they still
Wow.
keep in touch. So this one is one of many that I've sort of dedicated to them.
Why don't you tell us a little bit more about you, Matt? You know, how you got involved in music and what you've been doing, some of the things you've been doing, as I said, both locally and beyond the area.
Well, I grew up in Fairhaven, and I actually live again in Fairhaven. And I took piano lessons from sort of a little old lady down the street, Miss Helen Newton. And then I continued all the way through high school, getting a little bit into musical theater, and a little bit into jazz music. And then I went off to college. I attended Westfield State College at the time. And I worked with a very, very talented piano teacher up there, Ken Manzer. And he kind of straightened out some things with me. I was a little bit undisciplined as a musician when I got up there, but he really changed my life. And I returned to the area actually to teach high school in the say about 1989 or so, and I've been here ever since. Probably the last 20 years just as a professional musician at this point.
And how did you like the teaching aspect?
I enjoyed it. I was doing choral music, and it was a lot of fun. I had some good experiences. I worked at Fairhaven High School and at Tabor Academy for a while, and I've done off and on done church choir work too, and that's led me into doing a lot of church work at this point. Of course, unfortunately now with the virus, no one is doing any singing, or very little singing. I do work with a couple of different cantors, Heidi Dion from Somerset, and Frank Wilhelm, who you all know from Fall River Choral Society, I believe.
Right, yeah. Frank's a very good friend, actually. And Heidi, I know Heidi's voice. She has a fabulous voice, too.
She does.
As does Frank. So,
Yeah, it's a great pleasure to be able to work with them. And then I have been doing some online teaching, one-on-one with piano students, which of course 8 or 9 months ago I never would have imagined. But it's working out well. We use a format similar to what we see here,
Going, yeah.
kind of a Zoom format, and it's worked out pretty well.
It's great though. I mean, it certainly has its downsides, but it has its fabulous upsides, such as being able to have you and other guests on. We have no limitations, now there are no borders for any of this. You can
True.
cut right through, and it'll never be the same as being in a room with somebody or a studio with somebody, but it certainly allows for a lot more to happen in many ways. So tell us about your next number for us, Matt.
I think what we're going to put in here is a song from, I guess, The Sound of Music, right? My Favorite Things.
My favorite
Um,
thing.
and some people wonder, why would that be a Christmas song? But I grew up in the 1960s. I loved the music of Herb Alpert. And there was a famous Herb Alpert Christmas recording. And it had his band playing a version of My Favorite Things in a little different style. So I guess that's how I came up with this. And I'm also doing this a little bit differently. If people out there are counting along, it's more in the tradition of what Dave Brubeck did with Take Five. It's played in 5/4. So it almost sounds like either something's been added or taken away. I'm not sure how you want to look at it. So it's more of a jazz version of My Favorite Things.
Oh, sounds great. That was a very different and great rendition of a few of my favorite things. Matt, and tell us a little bit about your work in local theater. I know you've been involved and done at least one, if not more than one thing with Little Theater, um, with which I'm involved. And of course, we're all on hard times now, as we know. You know, it's a sad time for musicians and for people involved in the arts. Very sad time, actually. But tell us a little bit about your work. You were telling me about John and Peter, Peter De Silva and John Costa, and the wonderful show that they did at the Fire Barn some years ago now.
Yeah, we had worked on a show called "The Story of My Life,"
Yeah.
and we had done it for you, and we had also done it over at your theater in New
Yeah.
Bedford, and it worked out well. My theater roots go all the way back into school. I was lucky enough in junior high school and high school to work with a couple of choral directors that really pushed me into playing piano for the shows. So I really had to work hard at that, doing The King and I and The Sound of Music and things like that. And I also worked in the summers with the late Jerry Morrissey, who was an institution in this area for theater and musical theater. So I always kind of carried that. When I worked at Tabor, one of my responsibilities was to do the music direction for some shows out there. So it's always been something I've been interested in. I really miss being able to go down to New York once in a while
I know it.
to see live theater. And, we just wait. We're waiting for, for better times with that. And they will come. We're going to get there, but it's been difficult. So we've had some very nice times. The show I did with John and Peter was fantastic. And it always is in the back of my mind to get back into that again.
Well, here's hoping that we're able to do it, and not too far away. So let's hear yet another number. Do you want? Oh, we wanted to mention Facebook too, and the numbers that you're putting up. I think it's important for the audience to know about that.
Yeah, I kind of challenged myself as we have more time at home and more time to think about what we're doing as musicians and artists. And there's some wonderful things out there. I'm certainly not alone with this, but I challenged myself to post a different song each night. And I've been using the overhead cam, which we were talking about earlier in the show. So people seem fascinated by watching my hands from sort of an above position, which I use in my private teaching as well. So I guess this song is one of the ones that will come up in the Facebook posts, and it's people love this music. I took requests from people, and this is one of the songs that got requested, and they love the things from the Charlie Brown Christmas special. So this is going to be Skating.
So we're heading toward the finale. Once again, I'll mention that Matt is posting on Facebook some fabulous music. He's doing one holiday or Christmas number each day. So please be sure to pick that up on your Facebook page. And to if you miss a day, you can go back onto Matt's page. I think I'm right, Matt, on that.
Yes.
And find it on his page. But beautiful, beautiful music, a wonderful celebration of the holiday season. And so now we're going to play out to Let It Snow.
Yeah, I think we'll finish
Our
with
finale.
a little bit of a jazz version of Let It Snow to go out with. And I hope everyone enjoys these songs, and I wish everyone a great Christmas season and a great holiday season to everyone.
And thank you so much for joining us. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.